Hello, hello, hello. It is Dr. G, and I am a night shift emergency medicine physician who has a fear of public speaking and loves podcasting as well as entrepreneurship. So I wanted to get on today and talk with you about HIPAA. So, if you are in the health field, you are well aware of what that is. But before, you're probably wondering, why am I wearing glasses? Okay. I'm wearing glasses because so not so long ago, I put out a request or an ask, perhaps, asking you if you had any ideas for what kinds of things you would like to see in the swag shop. So, the Fearless Freedom with Dr. G podcast is going to be opening a swag shop, and I am looking for items to put in there. So one of the things that actually Dr. Jordana Quinn had recommended some tech type of swag. And so what I'm wearing here is actually tech swag. So it is a blue blocker glasses, right? So it's basically blocking the blue light from the screen. And so therefore protecting my eyes, because I spend a lot of time in front of screens, unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm not sure, depending on how you look at it. So what do you guys think? Like that? So blue blocker glasses for potential swag for the podcast. All right. Awesome. Yeah. And they're pretty comfortable, but I just wanted to kind of show that to you because I was kind of excited when they arrived. The Amazon Ferry brought it. Oh, hello, Dr. Brown. Thank you so much for joining on LinkedIn. I appreciate you. Thank you. All right, so let's get into it. So today on the show, we're going to talk about HIPAA and podcasting, some tips for success. So maybe you're a physician, maybe you are a physical therapist, maybe you're a nurse, maybe you are in some capacity in the medical field, and perhaps you have been asked to be on a podcast. Perhaps you're being asked to be on a podcast that will be talking about medical topics. Now, there are for sure many podcasts that are done by physicians. Like, for example, my podcast, we don't talk about medical topics per se. We really focus on personal development. So we talk about facing fear and emerging victoriously. But there are a number of podcasts that will be focusing on medical type issues. So you may be asked to come on and give your perspective on a particular area of medicine or dentistry or, under the umbrella of caring for patients. Okay. And so there is something that you have to be very cognizant of, and that is HIPAA laws. Okay. The law that came about in the 90s that basically helps to protect the patient's confidential information. Now, you don't want to be so excited when you're on a show and you blurt out some information that really should not have been blurted out, because this is something that is very serious, because literally you can not only be fined, but your hospital can get fined. And so we don't want that. It makes everybody very unhappy. And the person that gets hurt the most is actually the patient. So we don't want any of that. So you want to always be above reproach, and you want to have a plan for how you're going to go on a show and not have an issue with violating HIPAA. So the first tip that I'm going to give you 2 tips today. The first tip is that, and by the way, I want to give credit where credit is due, because this information, I was basically inspired after reading an article by, and hopefully I'm not butchering her name, but it's Nahla Davies. Okay, so Nahla Davies wrote this amazing article where she talks about, all of the intricacies of going on a podcast and being bound by HIPAA regulation. Okay. So Nahla, thank you so much for that, because it inspired me to do this live, and I appreciate you. So now the first thing is, just think about this. Think about aggregates for the win. And so when you are asked about something, so say maybe you're asked about how was your department affected by COVID-19, instead of giving a specific case, what you can say is, well, you know what, we had, you can say things like aggregate things, right? So nothing specific, nothing like case specific. You would then be grouping things together. hence aggregation. And then you would say something more along the lines of, hey, we saw an increase in whatever the situation is related to the influx of COVID patients. So that would be fine. But if you were to give specific details about any one case, that would not be fine. So just really thinking about how you can aggregate the information and the group the patient's experience in a way such that you can relay the topic's points without violating HIPAA. Okay, so I just gave you an example of that. You may want to talk about, I don't know what you're going to be talking about, but like another example would be, there is a certain amount of percentage of people that are now without healthcare. Okay, there you go. That's an aggregate, right? So it's a grouping. It's not a specific thing. It's not John Brown. John Brown's very generic. It's not an actual person named John Brown, but I know they're John Browns, but it's not, John Doe then. Okay, how about that? It's not John Doe who literally, is without insurance and he lives in this county and, you're not being specific about it. So you are aggregating the content and you're aggregating the patient experience such that you are not putting yourself in a position where you're going to violate the particular protections that have been placed for patients. Okay. So that is the first tip. Super important that you think in this way. And then the next one is going to be, I know that you're excited to be on a show. It's very exciting. It's exciting for me to put a show on. It's exciting for me to interview other people and have them on the show. And I love it when I get to be on other people's shows. It's so much fun. But in that excitement, you have to have some element of preparation. And that preparation is your action plan. So you want, if you know that the potential topic is going to perhaps involve some semblance of patient care and directives in that vein, then you want to have a plan about what is it that is completely off limits for you to discuss. So you want to have that outlined. You want to maybe even write out a script of all the things, all the talking points that you plan on, saying, plan on covering. And you also want to be like, you have to take that posture that no matter what, these things are non-negotiable. Like I am not saying that. Like that is just, I'm not even going to go there. And so podcasters, let me tell you, are very, very good at active listening. And so what we do is we listen to what you're saying, and then we may go off script. So say, for example, a podcaster may have sent you a set of questions that they're planning on covering. These are guidelines. Okay. So just keep that in mind. It may be that during the conversation, as we're actively listening, we may find something that we want to go a little bit deeper with. And so then we stray from the outline. Now, you want to make sure that if that thing that, that we're doing, that when we're digging deep to get you to say, to really spill your story, you want to make sure that that does not fall in the category of that I cannot talk about that situation related to your patient protection. Okay. So what do you say? What do you say when you're in your groove and you're talking, you're answering your questions, and you are in it to win it? You are live and in charge of the podcast, and you get that question that is out there, and it potentially can put you in that category of items that you said you were not going to discuss because you had a plan beforehand. You had your script, you had your talking points, and you said these things not talking about. What do? The best thing that you can do, the best thing is say, you know what? I'm sorry, but I can't answer that. That's it. People understand that. They get it. They know that you are being, that you have integrity and that you are basically looking out for their well-being. So I'm sorry, I can't answer that. Done. Then as a podcast interviewer, you basically move on to the next thing, right? So having that mindset that you're only going to be talking about aggregates or groupings of patient behaviors and characteristics versus singular items, and then planning ahead, either having your talking points as bullets or having an actual script and having those items that you absolutely will not talk about, and then realizing that you can always fall back on the, I'm sorry, I can't answer that. and you will be winning. You will be winning because you'll be protecting your patients, and you'll be winning because you'll be able to educate the audience of that particular podcast without causing any harm. And that is what we do. We do no harm first and foremost. So I hope that was helpful to you. I hope that if you're in the healthcare profession and you're having to be on a podcast and you're worried about how are you going to make sure that you maintain compliance with HIPAA, then I just gave you 2 powerful tools that will allow you to do that. So if this was helpful to you, I would love it if you would share with a friend, because what do friends do? They share amazing content with other friends. That's what good friends do. If you're on LinkedIn, thank you so much. Thanks again for popping by, Dr. Brown. Appreciate you. And if you're on YouTube, please feel free to hit the subscribe button and tune in again for the next episode of Dr. G Live. I hope that you will be strong, be brave, and unleash your greatness. Have an amazing day.